Program eligibility. Many of the program eligibility requirements are derived from the institutional definitions that we discussed in Chapter 1. However, they bear reminding that the institutional eligibility does not mean that all programs at the school are eligible. The financial aid should have process to conform the eligibility of educational before the paying of the federal student aid funds to the student enrolled in the program should promptly be reported to changes in the department. Determining the program eligibility, school eligibility does not necessarily extend to all the programs, so the responsibility of ensuring the program is eligible for the awarding of the federal student aid funds to the students in the program. In addition, with determining the program meets the eligible program criteria given in Chapter 1, such school should make a certain program that includes under the notice of accreditation for a nationalized recognized accreditation agency unless the agency does not require the particular program to be credited. The school should also maintain authorized by the appropriate state of the program if the state assigns individual programs a post-secondary institution. In some instances, a school program that may need general authorization as well as licensure for specific program approval. See the chapter for eligible institutions in Chapter 1. Chapter 2 highlights determining program eligibility, basic types of eligible programs, programs leading to gainful employment, additional eligibility requirements, written arrangements between the schools, distance education, and correspondence study. Related topics, eligibility requirements for the specific educational program, Volume 1, Chapter 1 of the Federal Student Aid Handbook. The additional programs defined in the eligibility institution, Chapter 1. Updating the e-apps for the change of the program location, Volume 2, Chapter 5 of the Florida State Handbook. Program eligibility is entitled 34 Code Federal Regulation 668.8 and 691.2b. School eligibility extends to the eligible program location as identified by the school e-apps unless other school participation team determined, the SPTs determined that a certain program location did not mean the eligibility certain programs or locations did not meet the eligibility requirements, has not approved for the expansion of the purpose of the federal student aid eligibility. The general school eligible non-degree program location is specifically named for the eligible certification approval report, ECCAR. Additional locations of the program may be added on the school participation team has approved for the program location and notifying the school which can print the updated eligibility certification approval report. A school program in the student to qualify as an eligible institution, a school must offer at least one eligible program, and not all programs at the eligible institution must be eligible, but at least one of the programs at the school must be eligible for the program requirements, except for students enrolled in a certain preparatory or teacher certification courses. The student may be enrolled in an eligible program to receive the federal student aid funds. For more information, see the Volume 1, Chapter 1 of this Florida's Federal Student Aid Handbook. If programs are offered through telecommunication, continuing education, definition of the eligible program, student enrolled in the program considered by the federal student aid program, assistance of the small business students enrolled in the eligible programs offer the traditional modes with some limitations. If a program offered through the correspondence meets the definition of eligible program, the students enrolled in the program can be considered eligible. See distant education correspondence in the chapter. Basic type of eligible programs at institutions of higher education. A school that qualifies as a public, private, or non-profit institution of higher education, the following types of the program are eligible for federal student aid purposes: a program that at least an associate's, bachelor, professional, or graduate degree; a program that at least 2 academics in duration with the acceptable full credit towards the bachelor's degree; a program that is at least 1 academic year in duration that leads to a certificate or other non-degree recognized credential prepares student as a gainful employment of the recognized occupation and prepares the student for the gainful employment in a recognized occupation. A certificate or diploma training program that is less than 1 year if those schools also meet the definition of post-secondary vocational institutions. Note that a non-degree program of public or private nonprofit institution subject to the rules of a gainful employment program unless the program at least 2 years transfer program. Gainful employment programs are explained later. On the left here it says a recognized occupation. All non-degree programs must prepare the student for the program of the gainful employment and specialized recognized occupations. The requirement also applies to the degree programs at preparatory schools. A recognized occupation is one of them identified in the Standard Occupational Classification (SOC) code established by the Office of Management and Budget or Occupational Information Network, the ONET SOC code established by the Department of Labor and available at ONNET Online at onnetonline.org. Its successor site, or considered the ED Constellation of the Department of Labor to be recognized as in the occupation. So, you get your standard occupation classification. If in the title of the program does not clearly identification of the special application the program prepares the student for, the information must appear for the schools of EAPS. Credit and clock hours. Later in the chapter, a discussion of how the power program length is measured in credit and clock hours. Other eligible programs. The additional types of eligible programs. Here we're going to read the eligible programs for a post-secondary vocational. 3 types of eligible programs: preparatory institution or post-secondary vocational institution. All these programs must be specified numbers of weeks. Instruction must be provided, and training prepares the student to gainful employment or recognized occupation. The program provides at least 600 hours of 16 semesters, trimesters, hours, or 24 quarters of undergraduate instruction offered during the minimum of 15 weeks 24 quarter hours and instruction offered during a minimum of 15 weeks instruction. The program admitted by the regular student person who have not completed the equivalent as an associate's degree. The program provides at least 300 clock hours, 8 semester hours, 12 quarter hours instruction during the minimum of 10-week instruction. The program must be a graduate professional program must admit the regular students only the personnel who have completed with the equivalent of the associate's degree. The program is known as the short-term program, which qualified as the direct loan program, and the type of the program must be provided by at least 300 but less than 600 clock hours of the instruction offered during the minimum of 10 weeks instruction. Other eligible programs. In addition with eligible programs, a direct assessment of the program approved by the department, a comprehensive transition secondary program approved by the department, and a program leading to the baccalaureate degree in liberal arts is defined in Title 34 Code Federal Regulation 600E. In a preparatory school, the accredited by the recognized regional accreditation agency or association. The school must have been continuous accredited by the regional accredited agency since at least October 1, 2007, and have provided a program continuous since January 1st, 2009. Title 34 Code Federal Regulation 668.8. The program must admit regular students to some person who have not been completed an equivalent of an associate's degree. The several additional requirements a short-term program must meet. The program must be verified completion placement rates at least 70%. See below. Not more than 50% or larger of the minimum training period required for the state and federal agency, if any occupation for the program instruction is intended, having been existent for at least 1 year. All degree, non-degree programs or proprietary institutions are subject for the rules of gainful employment program, except for the liberal arts prescribed in sidebar note on page 12. Here's the court's decision regarding the GE. Gainful employment regulations related to the reporting of requirements, qualifications of metrics, and requirements to provide notice of the intent of the new GE programs. Where vacated in court decision, the department will issue electronic announcements, dear colleges, letters of keeping school up to date on topical gainful employment. Programs leading on gainful employment and to eligible federal student aid program funding in an educational program at the institution. Higher education must lead to the degree associate's, bachelor's, graduate, professional, preparatory, historian, and gainful employment, recognized occupation, additional virtual all programs, degree, non-degree, offered preparatory institutions. Higher education must prepare students for gainful employment and recognized occupation collective. We rather of these programs, all non-degree educational programs offered by the public nonprofit institution are virtually all academic programs offered by priority institutions as a gainful employment programs of the GE programs. Gainful employment programs, see Volume 2, Chapter 2, the Federal Student Handbook for the more information on general gainful employment programs. As in once in the gainful employment electronic announcements of 11 and 12 provided the series questions that can be used in the help to determine the educational program is a gainful employment program. See also the announcement of 34 question seats G's Q9 on the frequently asked questions page. Continue updates on the topic of the posted gainful employment information page of the Information Financial Aid Professional, the IFAP Information of Financial Aid Professionals website. The additional eligible requirements, additional federal student aid program eligibility requirements of the specific educational program, for example, undergraduate education, and programs are eligible for Pell Grant and FEZOG programs. Correspondent programs are not eligible unless they meet the general requirements for eligible programs as required by the student regular program and study leading degrees. See the Volume 2, Chapter 12 of the Federal Student Handbook. That is Volume 2, Chapter 2, Florida Federal Student Aid Handbook, without the eligible following types of the programs: transition programs of the student of the intellectual disabilities, educational program eligible for teacher education assistance, colleague, and higher education teach grants. English as second language program. English and secondary language programs, ESLs. Elements of Blue Book, Volume 1, Elements of Institution Eligibility, Direct Assessment Programs, Study Abroad Programs, and Flight School Programs. Arrangement, Title 34, Code Federal Regulations, and 668.5. These are additional eligible programs: Direct Assessment Programs, Study Abroad Programs, and Flight School Programs, which are requirements. Written arrangement between schools under a consortium and contractual agreement, including those study abroad programs. The home school must be given in credit hours of the course taken at other schools on same basis of providing training itself, underlying the assumption that such an arrangement at the home school has founded the other school organization academic standards equivalent to its own instructional acceptable substitute for its own. A home school may be declined and give credit for the course hours in which the school earns and graduates, non-acceptable for home school, even though the host school has possibly accepting the graduate is resident in school. In addition, even though the grades received for the consortium and contractual agreements do not have to be included in the calculation of the student's grade point average GPA, that must include the calculation of the quantitative component, the percentage of credits earned, and adverse attempted of the student in satisfactory academic progress. Consortment. The definitions of agreement. A consortment is an arrangement between two or more eligible schools. A contractual arrangement, a written eligible between eligible schools and ineligible schools. Home school. The school with student is enrolled by the degree of the certificate. Host school. A school where the student is taken the part of his or her program, has taken part on his or her program requirements through the consortium or contractual agreements. The 2+2 programs are partnerships between 2-year and 4-year schools that facilitate a student completing the last 2 years of the student's 4-year degree. It is not written that the individual student or group of students' agreement with the school can go indefinitely. These arrangements do not have been renewed unless on terms of arrangement change. The requirements for inform a school must provide enrolled prospective within description written agreements it has entered into. The school must provide enrolled and prospective students with the description of the written arrangements is entered into, including a portion of the educational program in the school, the grants and degrees and certificate is not providing the name of location of school's organization providing the portion of the educational program. The method of delivery of the parts of the educational program and method of delivery of the part of the educational program. Estimated additional costs students may incur enrolling in an educational program provided under the written arrangement. Requirements to inform the students of arrangement. Title 34 Code Federal Regulation 668.43A12. A consortment agreement. A consortment agreement can apply with the federal student aid under the consortment of the students that may take the course at the school other than the home school, and then they have them count toward the degree of the certificate at the home school. A student can only receive a federal student aid assistance of the course of the applicable student certification or degree program. A consortium arrangement can be or blankly arrangement between the two or more eligible schools and can be written in specific students, such as agreement is often a student taking related courses in a neighboring school, or such an agreement is often used when the student takes a related course in a neighboring school or when a school is enrolled in an exchange program with another eligible school for the term or more a school could have. One agreement for each of the students, separate arrangement for the host schools, and a blanket arrangement of the group of schools. In conformity with the agreement, there is no limit to the portion of the eligible program in the conformity agreement. There's no limit of the portion of the eligible program that provided by the eligible schools other than the home school. The arrangements contents can be very widely dependent upon the interests of schools involved in accrediting state agency standards. See the sidebar required of the contents of the arrangement. The contents of the consortium arrangement. The department does not dictate the format of the agreement, in which can be executed by the several different offices. Whether the agreement is kept, however, the following information should be included in all agreements. The school will grant the degree or the certificate, the student tuition fees, and room, board, and cost at each other. The student's enrollment status at each of the school. The school will be responsible for disbursement, monitoring student eligibility, and the procedure of the calculating awards, dispersing, monitoring satisfaction, progress, other students eligible requirements, keeping the records of the returning of the funds at the event of the student withdrawal. Usually a home school is responsible for disbursing, disbursing funds, but if the student is enrolled in a full-time academic career at the host school, it must be easier for the host school to monitor the student's eligibility for making the payments. When the written arrangement between eligible schools and any school participation, written arrangement for the make federal student aid calculations disbursement without school being considered third-party services, they're true even in the student is not currently taking courses at this school to calculating disbursement aids. The school is in when there's written an arrangement between eligible schools, any of the schools participated in the written arrangement of the federal student aid calculations disbursement without the school being considered a third-party servicer. This is true that even the student not currently taking the course at the school that is in the calculation of the disbursement of the aid. The school disburses federal student aid award is responsible for maintaining information student eligible, how the award was calculated, the money that has been distributed, to any documentation associated with the award, even as such some of the documentations coming from the other schools. Moreover, the school paying the student must return the federal student aid if required. For example, if the refund or return of the over the payment situation. For the detailed, however, the agreements of the Pell Grant calculations, to see Volume 3, Chapter 3 of the Federal Student Aid Handbook. Written agreements. If a written agreement is between two or more eligible institutions and that are allowed under controlled by the same individual, partnership, or corporation, the department considers the educational program to be eligible in program if the educational program offered by the school of the grants of the degree and certificate otherwise satisfies the requirements of the eligible program described in this chapter. School that grants the degree certifies that provides more than 50% of the educational program. Provide limitations to the following paragraphs that adhere to the eligible institutions on contractual agreements and ineligible school organizations under the ineligible school organization provides parts of the educational program of the students enrolled in the eligible school. Okay, student abroad references arrangement for the student abroad organization are through Title 34 Code Federal Regulation 668.5, and student eligible for student abroad programs is Title 34 668.39. An eligible school is prohibited from entering the contract with an ineligible school or organization who eligible certification participates in federal student aid programs that have terminated or revoked by the department. Application certification, recertification to participate in federal student aid programs when denied in the department. Similarly, an eligible school is prohibited from entering in a contract with an ineligible school, organization, or voluntary withdrawal and participation in federal student aid programs under determination showed the cause of suspension. Similarly, type of the proceeding initiated through the school's licensing agency, accreditation agency, guarantor, and the department. Under a contractual agreement, the eligible school is always the home school. A home school is eligible. Homeschool does and aid in processing disbursement functions, and for students attending the ineligible school organization, the homeschool responsibly maintaining all the records necessary for the documentation, student eligibility, receipt of the aid. For a school contractual agreement, these limits of the portion of the program have offered the ineligible school. Both homes and ineligible schools are owned and controlled by the same individual partnership corporation. No more than 25% of the educational program can be provided by the ineligible school. If the two parts of the separated, owned, or controlled, the ineligible can be provided up to 50% of the educational program. However, in the case of separately owned schools, the contracted portion is more than 25% of the program. The homeschool, its accreditation agency, or state agency, in the case of post-secondary vocational institution, must determine to conform the written arrangement meets the standard contracting educational services. Student abroad programs. Eligible student abroad students entitled to federal student aid. If the student eligible have been a problem to receiving the federal student aid funds for the student abroad programs because neither the student homeschools nor the student was temporarily attending, documentation of the student was enrolled in eligible programs of study. These circumstances have caused otherwise eligible students to be denied financial assistance from both schools. The law states that participation in a student abroad program approved by the home school is eligible for federal student aid, regardless other than program is required by the student regular eligible program of the study, as long as the student is eligible regular student enrolled in the eligible program at the home school and an eligible approval approves of the program of the student abroad accreditation academic credit. The program participation agreement, the PPA, requires the participation schools to establish the procedures that ensure the students of the participation in the student abroad programs received by the federal student aid funds to which they are entitled. A student program must be written in contractual consortium agreements between two or more schools. A student abroad program does not have to have required part of the eligible program at the home school. The student may be eligible to receive the financial student aid of the credits earned by the student abroad. Exchange the program must apply toward graduation of the student program at the home school. With the written arrangements between eligible schools of the participating in the written arrangement making the federal student aid program a calculation of disbursement without the school being considered the third-party servicer. If the true, even the student is not taking the course of the school of the calculating disbursement aid. If the student abroad program has a higher cost of the homeschool, they should reflect in the student's cost of attendance. This may result in the student being eligible for additional federal student aid funds. For foreign schools acting on the behalf of foreign schools, an eligible U.S. school that may have been written arrangement with a foreign school or organization acting on the behalf of the foreign school, such as an arrangement also considered one between the eligible domestic school, whether the student enrolls in an ineligible foreign school, even later if the otherwise entitled for eligible. Therefore, these arrangements are considered contractual agreements that must follow the rules that apply to such as DCL GEN 1118. For the more information, Title 4 eligible programs offered with written arrangements between U.S. foreign schools. Type of study abroad program. Study abroad programs configurations include a homeschool sends students to a student abroad at the end of the eligible foreign homeschool. The homeschool must have a consortium of contractual agreements for the foreign school. Homeschool is instead a separate arrangement with each of the foreign schools' written arrangement. The student abroad organization representation of the more foreign schools. The arrangement must adequately describe the duties, responsibilities for each of the entities and meet the regularity requirements. A variation of the student abroad programs occur to the home school sending of the facility students as a foreign site. This is not in consortium with the contractual study of the abroad program rather than foreign site in consideration and educational location under the Title 34 Code Federal Regulation 600.32. Distant educational correspondence study. The school uses distance education correspondence courses to give the student alternatives to the courses scheduled location to the have and been offered in the distant education correspondence programs at the domestic school are considered eligible for federal student aid in the program if you have been accredited by the agency a recognized Department of Accreditation distance educational correspondence education respectively. See Federal Student Handbook Volume 2 Chapter 2. The discussion of education certain of the technologies delivered delivery instruction students that have separated the instructors from separate the regular substantial interactive between the technologies that may include the internet audio conferencing, one-way, two-way transmission through the open, broad, closed circuit of the cable, microwave, broadband lines, fiber optic, satellite, wireless communications, and devices. Correspondence course is a home study course from which the school provides instructional materials, including examinations to the students who are not physically attending these classes at the school. Interaction between the instructor and student is omitted, not regularly substantive, and primarily limited by the student. Learning the typical self-place when a student completes a portion of the instruction, he takes a relevant examination, returns to school for grading. This is Book 1, Elements of Instructional Eligibility, Chapter 2. And now we're on to Chapter 3, School Participation Requirement Agreements.